Welcome to the road to 1 million US dollars, and let's get right into the Bitcoin chart for today, starting on this 1 hour time frame, because potentially we are seeing yet another bullish signal confirming here, and this is in the form of this triangle pattern, which currently is about to break out to the upside with a potential price target of about 117.9k. Now, one last note with regards to this triangle pattern, guys. The point of the breakout for this pattern is sitting at 115.2k, roughly speaking. And if we now start getting candle closes back below the point of the breakout, this actually invalidates the pattern, meaning that Bitcoin is no longer actively targeting this 117.9k level. So that would actually be a bearish signal in the short term. And if that happens, then be on the lookout for a potential break down below this ascending trend line as well, which would be another short-term bearish confirmation at that point. Besides that, on this 2 hour time frame, we also still have this bullish divergence confirmed in the charts, which is when you have lower lows in the Bitcoin price and higher lows in the RSI momentum indicator. Typically, this points out towards us getting a break from all of this bearish price action we saw here recently, either in the form of some choppy sideways price action or potentially some bullish momentum. So far, we are seeing some short-term bullish momentum here in order to retrace some of this massive crash we had to the downside recently. And overall, on this 2 hour time frame, it is really as simple as, so long as we are holding above this ascending trend line, I am simply bullish on Bitcoin and expecting further continuation to the upside. However, we don't have a confirmation yet that Bitcoin is now ready to blast off to $130,000 or something like that. So for example, while we are in this uptrend, before I can get much more bullish, I need to see a break above this area of resistance, which currently is sitting at about 119.1k. But keep in mind that this does trend down over time. Besides that, we do have a horizontal area of resistance here around 117,000, so keep an eye on that as well if you're trading the lower time frames right now. And if we move on to the 1 day time frame, then notice how right here we are currently inside this bigger area of resistance, sitting from 115 up to 117k. In the case that we break through 117 though, the next area of resistance on the 1 day time frame is sitting from 119 all the way up to 120,000. And you can see that a bit more clearly here on this 2 day time frame, right? So we had a very nice bounce from this exact level of support, sitting from 109.5k all the way down to 108.5k on this 2 day time frame, right? And as I said yesterday as well, the uptrend is still intact. We're still making higher lows here on this 1 day time frame, as well as on this 2 day time frame. So therefore, I don't have any strong bearish confirmation at the moment that we are in some kind of bear market. Currently, there are no signals pointing towards this, and there are some signals pointing on the lower time frames towards some further continuation to the upside in the immediate short term. In terms of an area of resistance on this 2 day time frame, that is again sitting from 119 all the way up to 120k. Now lastly, let's quickly dive into the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, first of all on this 3 day time frame. And before I dive into the analysis, guys, in the case that you don't know, typically the Bitcoin price gets attracted to where there is the most liquidity on this chart. So where you see the most yellow areas here. And right now we have liquidity on both sides. There's some close liquidity to the upside sitting at 116.4k. And we have liquidity to the downside as well at 112.9k. Now the way you can view this is simply that so long as we are holding above that ascending trend line on the lower time frames that I showed you, then more likely we are targeting this area of liquidity here. And above that, there's even liquidity at 118.1k. But in the case that we start breaking down below that ascending trend line, then you should start looking towards this liquidity to the downside as some potential areas that the Bitcoin price might get attracted to. Now, if I zoom out all the way to the 1 year time frame and I take a look at the long-term Bitcoin liquidation heat map, you can see that we had a massive amount of liquidity around this 107k level, but that has already been taken out in the flash crash a couple of days ago. So that means that right now, most of the liquidity is in fact to the upside. That is sitting at around 126.4k. And my base case expectation right now is that we are first going to take out this 126K level of liquidity before we do anything else. Now, does that make me super bullish on Bitcoin right now? Not necessarily, as I showed you on the lower time frames. Like, I'm waiting for a bit more confirmation. But in terms of this Bitcoin liquidation heat map, this is pointing towards the idea that more likely we are going to take out the liquidity to the upside first. What would change my mind on this is, for example, if we break down below 108.5K on the 2-day time frame. So if we get candle closes below here, that would completely change my mind, and from that point onward, I would be looking towards liquidity to the downside to be grabbed after that. But so far, that is not the case. We haven't seen the breakdown below, and therefore, I am looking at the liquidity to the upside. Now, lastly, in terms of the Bitcoin ETF flow tables, I don't have any new data for today because, of course, the Bitcoin ETFs do not trade on weekends, and the data is 24 hours behind. So therefore, we're going to take a look at Monday's data in tomorrow's video. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel with notifications on so you do not miss any of these important update videos. But regardless, if you do end up subscribing or not, thank you for watching once again, and I will see you tomorrow in the next one.